Alright, so let's play with Webkit transformations for a minute. This is only going to work in Safari. It may work in Chrome. We're going to take a look at that. But we're going to make these icons. So this is already a Webkit transformation. I'll go over this later. But what we really want to do here is these are a bunch of icons, right? So if you're familiar with smartphones, especially the iPhone, you know that when you hold your mouse on, well, your finger on one of the icons, they start to wiggle. So let's create that wiggle effect with no JavaScript. We're going to do this solely with CSS transformations. Now, one thing that we have to do, though, is we have to know that this is going to be a keyframe transformation. And the reason we're going to do keyframe transformation is because if you think of a wiggle, it's got to rotate right, it's got to rotate left, and then back again. Okay, so we're only going to be able to do that with keyframe transformations. So let's figure out how to start writing this. First, basically the way you have to set up keyframe transformations is if you have to set up the keyframe ahead of time. So to do that, you do @webkit keyframes actually that's it, webkit keyframes, and then space, and then the name of your animation. I'm going to call mine wiggle. Okay, so in these brackets you need to have basically three things. Well, multiple things, but from, okay, and then two. Okay, this will say do what, and then do what. And then what you can have also is what you want in the center, which is why we need this. So we have our beginning point, our end point, and then we're going to have our middle point, which is going to be our 50% point. And you can have as many different ones as you want. You could have 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever. Okay, you can do whatever you wanted with that. But we're just going to have a starting point, a middle point, and an end point. Okay, and then in here you have regular CSS declarations. What we want to do is rotate our block. Now we have three rotate options, X, Y, and Z. X would be along the X axis, which would be this axis, so it would tilt forward and tilt back. So let me actually, I'll set that up so I can show you because it's a lot easier. That's going to be the wrong one, but we'll go through them all. Webkit transform. Okay, so Webkit transform is the CSS property name, and then rotate X. Okay, again, X is going to be wrong, but we're going to show you. We're just going to do 2 degrees, so we're just do a little bit, 2 degrees, and then close that, okay, which is great. So then we're just going to copy that and paste that to the other three guys because we want to go 2 degrees, and then -2 degrees, and then 2 degrees again, okay? Now what we have to do is apply. So now that we have this set up ahead of time, okay, now we need to apply it. So we're going to apply it to our product box. So our product box is actually the container element for each of these guys. So I'm going to say product box. What we need to do is set up 4 different things. You set up a WebKit animation name, and that's going to be the name that we gave it, so that's going to be wiggle. And then we need a WebKit WebKit duration, right? And that's going to be, oh sorry, animation duration. And we're going to say this is going to be over 0.4 seconds. It's going to be pretty fast. And then we're going to do a WebKit animation iteration count. And now what iteration count will do is say, okay, do I want it, how many times do I want it to go? Do it this many times. So I could do it 5 times and then stop like that. But there actually takes in a word infinite, so it'll actually go forever, which is the case, because basically what we'll want to do in the end when we apply this is we'll want to give this a class like this, and then we'll remove the class and it will stop wiggling. But for now we're just going to do that. So WebKit animation iteration count, and the last thing is WebKit animation timing function. And a timing function is basically like linear or ease in, ease out. If you're familiar with jQuery animations, you're familiar with these. But for this, we're just going to use ease. Okay, that way it eases in and eases out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that, and that's all you need to actually do the rotation. So when I refresh the page here, you can see that they're wiggling forward and back. And let's go ahead and make this degree more like 20, just to show you, just to give it a better. You can see what's going. Okay, so see how they're going forward and back, and they're all in unison. So not the right effect. It's all around this middle x-axis, okay? And my other CSS animation still works. This is kind of pulsating in my face, so we need to change this. So that's rotate x. So rotate y is going to rotate around the vertical middle, which is also wrong. So that's doing that, which has its own effect in its own right, mind, which is still kind of funny. but still not the right effect. So the last one will be rotate Z, which is the right effect, because it will rotate around the Z axis, which is the diagonal axis. Okay, so now they're going absolutely crazy, although this is closer to the effect. So let's take this 20 back down to 2, like that. And now we've got a wiggle that's appropriate. And if we open the entire page, here's all the icons wiggling. Now, if you wanted to be having them wiggle differently from each other, you could do some odd selectors and some even selectors and do the timing differently, what have you. To go ahead and make these less static and make them rotate at different times, we'll say dot product box, and then we'll say colon. We'll use our nth child selector, which is new to CSS3, so nth child, and then we'll say odd. Okay, and then we'll grab this and paste it here again and say even, and then we'll just go ahead and take this 4 seconds out of here and paste it in here, and then paste it in here again and change this one to 3. Now they're going to be, each tile will rotate differently. So if we refresh that, you can see now that it's got actually a much more lifelike jitter now, and they're all kind of different from each other, which gives it a much cooler effect. But this is just a really cool way to do this for everything on your page. This is actually using my GPU. It's trying to use, if it can, my GPU to do these animations. So if you were to do this in JavaScript, it would probably be a lot slower. Let's take a look at this in Chrome and see if it can actually handle this. Okay, let's see. So ignore what this is. This is actually something else I'm doing. So it's really slow. So it doesn't look like. And let's go ahead and turn this off. See if it's because I have 2 going at the same time. It looks like that. Yeah, that Chrome can't handle this as well yet. Kinda, not really. It's pretty jittery. I wouldn't recommend it. Yep. So they've barely implemented this, so not that good at all. But on Safari, if you're building an iPhone app or an iPad app, or you want your website to only work in Safari, if you do this, here's a cool technique to do this wiggling effect.